today's project on the Jeep. Last time you were with me, got the headlights working, and so now that that's complete, I've got a few things to do around with the suspension, and I actually just bought new tie rods, and so I'm going to do some work to the steering here soon. But before I do that, I am going to install a winch on the front, actually. So the other day I decided to ball out a little bit and got my hands on a worn 12,000 pound synthetic rope winch. And plan is to use it between this Jeep, and I got a 78 Dodge pickup, and then my car trailer. And for mounting it to the Jeep, the other ones I'm going to use a receiver mount. It's quick and easy, but they're ugly. And in this case, I want it to look decent, so just going to go ahead and install a bolt-in mount. Alright, here's the winch. Like I said before, worn 12,000 pounder. Here's the, I don't know what you'd even call that. That's what the cable rides through. Got the hook itself. It's a nice little canvas, I don't know, a strap you could call it, what you're supposed to hold on to, I suppose, but can't help but feel that's going to end up falling off on me. Got the controller itself. I guess it's wireless and wired, kind of interesting. Use it both ways. I'm not sure if I'll have to set it up. I can imagine that. I didn't take much time to read the manual. Already converted it to like the quick connector for the wiring, because like I said before, I want to be able to transfer it between vehicles. So here's what I'll run to the battery itself. Now that I got the winch, I'm going to go ahead and get the Jeep itself ready to take the winch mount. And once that's complete, I'll be able to bolt this thing right on and do the quick wiring, hook those to the positive and negative on the battery, and yeah, I'll have a winch on this thing, so that'll be cool. Here's the actual winch mount that I bought to be able to bolt the winch onto the Jeep. So this is a kit I got from Warn. It's the same company as the winch. Not that it really matters, but good company nonetheless. So as you can see, the metal is nice and thick. It'll be sturdy, thicker than the frame itself that it's going to bolt to, so shouldn't be the weak point. Here's the actual rail itself that the frame, or that the winch bolts to. These bolt to the frame, which bolts to the winch mount, which bolts to the actual winch. So I'll have to make sure that I get these fitting right onto the frame and mark my holes so I can drill. One thing I'm going to run into is, since this is slightly different, this isn't, you know, the kit's for a CJ5, not for a CJ2A. It works from what I understand, what I've read online, but I'll probably have to do a little modification. I noticed that this front hole is slightly higher up than the back, which I kind of wish was flip-flopped because I got more room in the back than I do the front. But that's a project I can tackle later. Worst case, I can always drill another hole. Now that you've seen these, I'm going to go ahead and head out to the barn and try to get these to fit onto the frame correctly. So the one I've got, it's set up to get right between the frames. It's for a CJ5, but apparently they're either really close or the exact same frame width, because eyeballing it up and everything, and some, like, you know, I guess not super precision measurements, but it everything measured as though it'll drop right in. I only have couple of issues. On the front here, I'm going to have to trim a little bit of this off here in order to make it sit flush. And then it'll sit high up enough that I should be over all this and not have any worries there, hopefully. When I go to put it in, I'll actually bolt the mount all together just so it's sturdy and all the angles are sitting where it needs to be, and then I'll drop it in between or drop it over the frame. Then I'm going to take some some C-clamps and get everything kind of leveled and measured and bolted in. Or measured and leveled and tightened down, clamped, and then I'll drill the holes. And so, shouldn't be too hard. Biggest problem here is going to be, got to do that same clearance of the bumper mount on this side. Shouldn't run into any issues with this, like I said. It's a flush mounting, like with the square shoulder bolt that'll stick in the bottom here, so it doesn't need a lot of room. So I'll obviously have those bolted in beforehand, so it shouldn't be an issue clearance-wise here. But my big problem is going to be this right here. So at some point, I think I've mentioned it before, but something must have happened where it got hit up here, because I can see a little bit of damage here, and the fenders moved slightly back and kind of see the crack in it down there. This is all messed up. Bit of I think that's more crash damage than rust. And then of course this shock, I guess leaf spring shock. No, what do you call that? Yeah, it'd be the shock plate. It's messed up, and the arm on it that holds the lower shock mount is messed up. So it's apparent that something happened at some point with this vehicle. And I've looked at the frame, and as far as I can tell, it's straight, but for whatever reason, it must have got pulled straight. And so they welded on a bunch of metal. They got this down here, and goes, and this one here, and the inside everything looks smooth. Just maybe I'm missing the spot where it bent, but for whatever reason, somebody stiffened it all up on this side. And so what I have to do, unfortunately, is order to make the mount fit on this side. Like I said, I got to do that clearancing there. But I will have to do a little bit of cutting away at it to make it sit flush, or otherwise I'm going to lose that nice width I'm getting. So I have a few options. I'm going to start by kind of just eyeballing where I think it needs to sit, and I'm going to try to, or then I'll etch out the sides with mark up the sides with a marker to kind of have an outline of where I need to cut, and then I'll cut a little bit past that. And I got air tools, and I got a chisel, and this doesn't look very well welded to begin with, so hopefully I'll just be able to kind of cut the outline and then grind away a little bit, get a spot to hit it with a chisel, and boom, pop it out. But don't know till you try. And just like that, it's removed. And so it's pretty difficult typically to get these out without any witness marks. Like, they got a little dipped in here, but all things considered, that'll flap this out nicely. May end up having to cut it a little bit further down, but at this point, with this much already removed, the hard part's over. We're going to call the driver's side good. It's nice and smoothed out. It's not a perfectly flat surface, so it doesn't sit, I can't still rocks a little, but once I get everything drilled and bolted in, that's obviously not going to be the case. So let me go ahead and move on to the passenger side, get that knocked out. This side is now complete. And things are sitting very nicely. So I just might have to lower or go a little lower on the cut here by the looks of it, just to make sure my angle's good and I'm nice and down into the frame here, but I'll double check on that. Now that's done, minus probably a little trimming there. I'm gonna go ahead and bolt the winch mount together and just see how that fits down into the frame, and if I'm gonna have to do any adjustments there, a little trimming. Like I said before, it looks like it's gonna fit, but you know, sometimes things are a little close, and wouldn't be surprised if it's a little tighter, a little too loose. But ideally, it'll just be slightly loose and I can washer it. Or if it's too tight, we'll see. Maybe just put it in with a nut, bolt it down all the way, and then crank it in once I get it slipped over. So yeah, let me go ahead and take care of bolting the winch mount together, and we'll go from there. So now that I was able to actually get the frame mounts to fit up halfway decent, I'm gonna go ahead and bolt them to the winch mount, and then I'll try to test fit the whole unit to the Jeep and see how that fits. So let me go ahead and get that bolted up really quick. I'm not going to bother filming it just because it'll kind of be a pain. I was able to get the winch mount all bolted together. It's only the 4 bolts, I guess, so not really anything crazy, but nothing tightened yet. So now I have to, this is obviously where the cable slips through. I'm gonna have to flip it around and see if it sits on here. I'm almost certain, especially after bolting everything up and seeing how it moves everything, or how the winch mount sits kind of forward and over the bumper, that this isn't gonna work, or that there's a hook on either side. It's gonna have to get cut out for clearance, but honestly, I don't know if I'd have trusted them to hook anything to anyway. I don't know how well they are welded, but I guess they have been on there a while. So, but either way, it shouldn't be hard to cut them off, but I'm almost sure I'm gonna have to. So let me get the camera set up. It is a heavy chunk of steel. It's definitely a good thing. So I'm gonna go in at a bit of an angle, just to kind of see what oh yeah, that's perfect. Huh. All right. So it's fitting really nicely, other than just barely on this side. This one's too far over. So I could cut that and re-weld it, or just cut it off. Not sure yet. But it's good to see that it's a nice fit to the frame. So that's going to make things easy. Or a lot easier, I should say. And so, yeah, I'm just going to have to look into cutting that off and moving it over, or just leaving it like I said. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to knock that down a little bit. I think I'll just go ahead and cut it all the way down and just remove it. Shouldn't be too hard. So I'll get that stuff taken care of off camera. I don't think it's really worth capturing. Gone ahead and gotten this smoothed out. And same with the frame here. The area I had to cut off of this reinforcement. And now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and test fit the winch mount again. Make sure that's looking good. And if everything looks good there, I'm going to take a minute really quick just to spray a little rusty metal primer on this. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but I figure it'll be better than nothing. With how cold it is right now, it's probably about 40 degrees here. It's not going to stick very well no matter what I put on there, so I'll put something cheap and simple and hopefully come back sometime in the summer here, coming up in a few months, and or spring even, and try to get something more permanent. All right, so it's definitely fitting up well. You can see no more issues with that. I think everything's looking good. Definitely getting more engagement into the frame here than I was before. So that's good. I probably will have to raise it a 1/4 inch or so, but I got more than enough frame to get through there. I was able to get the bumper and frame areas all that were bare metal with the rusty metal primer sprayed on, so they should at least be somewhat protected. It's not going to flat out rust, so that's something. Looks like crap, but I guess that was kind of a given. But luckily most of the winch mount's going to cover it up, and so it is what it is. So now I'm going to go ahead and get the winch mount fitted and clamp it down, and then I'll start marking and drilling and hopefully get that part of the project knocked out. Alright, so I guess I can really only do one side at a time, so I'm going to put this about where I think I want it to be and do my best to match that on the other side. That bumper's not straight, so that might never look right, unfortunately. But it'll be strong and sturdy and is in alignment with the vehicle itself as it needs to be. So now that it's clamped down and sturdy and I'm liking where it's sitting, I think I'm going to go ahead and drill it out. And so once that's complete, it's just putting 4 bolts in on either end, and I got the 4 here. Okay, we are through. Okay, another one down. So yeah, let's move on the other side now, I guess, and go through that torture again. I don't think I'm going to bother filming it, so I'll cut it here and get back to you. Pull a boatload of cable out of my new winch just to get that little extra finger room. But I guess it's got to get unraveled at some point. The winch itself is mounted. Now I just need to mount up this front piece and we can call this done, other than do a little quick wiring to the battery to be able to plug this in. We'll call this properly installed. It's definitely big on the front of this, but it looks good. Excited to back it out and get a better shot, a better angle at it. But so I'll go ahead and finish up the wiring. That's nothing crazy. It's literally just I'll be hooking a positive and a negative lead up to the battery terminal. So I'll take care of that off the camera, and then I'll get back to you once I get it backed out and the winch hooked up, and I'll yeah, test it out real quick. Figured I'd get a nice view from outside now in your room. So yeah, it looks really good on it. It's way too big of a winch for the Jeep, relative, but proportionally it doesn't look too bad on the front. So I'll take that. So now I'm planning on heading out to my family's property and hopefully try to yank some trees with it, see what it can do. Here's the Jeep, got it out here. I've already proceeded to tying it up to the back of this tree, or tying the back to this tree, I should say. And yeah, so I'm gonna test out the winch by gonna hook it to this cool choker chain setup I have. It's firmly wrapped around the tree, and the spot it's at, it definitely seems to be a big part of the tree, so it should do its job. So I definitely want to stand under that. A lot of rain, so the creek's way up. So that was an adventure getting over here in and of itself, because I had to cross the creek to get here. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. Probably wouldn't have done it in many other vehicles than this though. But anyway, I'll get this hooked up and catch up with you. Definitely want to stand back a little, but get a good shot of everything. And yeah, make sure that starts off good. Yeah, just pulling some slack back in. All right, so we got it. Jeep fired up, winch in hand, winch controller in hand, winch on Jeep. And I guess this is gonna be the first real pull with it, so we'll see how this goes. There we go. Getting some tension now. Yep, see this is starting to pull taut. Jeep's moving a little bit. Alright, it is getting some tension on it. Definitely, it's probably time to start standing further back. We're definitely lifting the frame of the Jeep up. This is why I tied it back, because it has got a lot of tension right now. Okay, I don't know if you saw that, but the Jeep lifted up there. I don't know if I should give up or give it a little more and see what happens. We'll give her one more pull, see what happens. It's gonna go. Oh, don't flip my Jeep. Don't flip my Jeep. Let's give it one more go, I guess. But in the spirit of really trying to get this down, ought to see if maybe. I like that. Jeep's lifting up. That's cracking though. Huh. Yeah, Jeep's hanging on a thread right now. I could try getting further back and getting more angle out of it. We'll give her one more yank from here and see if that does it. Yeah, we got everything all hooked up. Tension in the chain, tension in the line. Jeep's fired back up. So hopefully have a little bit more progress from further back, about 15, probably about 15 feet back. And we'll see how it goes. Try to get the Jeep in there. Give it a second. There it goes. I got a really nice angle here. So this is gonna be it. If we can't get this to pull off this time. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, we broke something. That's why you should stand back. See, look at that. Cable with hook and everything. Flew so far back, it shot all the way under the Jeep in a second. Didn't even see it. So this may have been too much for this chain thing. Or, yeah, I broke a chain, it looks like. Ring broke open. Bummer. Was working good. So yeah, this unfortunately didn't stay together on me. Blew right at the weld, so maybe that means I could fix this. Not gonna quite throw it away just yet. And so now I'm just gonna use a couple other tools, or rather, yeah, I guess tools would be the right word, to put this, or to pull this apart. Figured it might be a little too much for this, but it failed quicker than I thought. All right, this ought to be a much stronger thing to pull from. So now I've launched this all the way back. That's crazy, literally within a second. Fortunately, it didn't like shoot through my windshield or radiator, but that's why you stand back, because you don't want that crap hitting you. That'll break bones. Won't cut through you like the steel cable unless it's really, really taut. But regardless, this big metal hook to the face or the chest or the groin, oof, that's gonna hurt. I was able to get the winch hooked up. So let's try to get this pulled down the rest of the way. Let that rest for a minute. See if this is it or not. Definitely gonna stand back again. Who knows, this axle strap thing I got it hooked to may not be sturdy enough. I think it is, but then again, apparently I thought that chain was, so let's give it a shot. Uh-oh. It just hurt the Jeep. Broke this thing off the back of the frame. Darn it. It's not what you want to do. Let's see where it broke. Couple of bolts. Guess I should have had it through here or something. Oof. I think I ought to keep fighting at this point and just hook it in a better spot this time and really get it in the frame. And it'll probably do it. This was just, I didn't realize that was just bolted in, and that was the leverage waiting to happen. So unfortunately, I have that, I guess. Apparently, but I should be able to fix that. Shouldn't be the biggest thing in the world. Here's my new frame spot. Hopefully I can bend that back down, but it shouldn't be the end of the world. That's how you learn your equipment, I guess. Okay, let's give this a shot. I don't want to rip my frame in half, so I'm very torn right now. I would think that only happened just because two rusty old bolts that, and I didn't really know how that was held in. So that seems to be the chain pulling spot, but who knows what it's really rated for. This is getting intense. So we'll try one more. The last thing I want to do is mess up the front frame either. So let's just try going for it, I suppose. And just be far enough back that if anything breaks, it's not me. Got it. I think I got that on camera. Ugh. Okay, that's not clean, but was never gonna be, unfortunately. I'm not an arborist, so there's no way in hell I was gonna climb up this. I mean, God, look. I think we got enough trees that are pretty. Hopefully it's enough this thing will stay alive. I don't think that's the end of the world. It doesn't look to be too deep. So we'll see. I'll do my best. I'll keep the vines off this tree. Try to keep it growing. It's one of the lower ones, so that's the plus. Probably why it broke to begin with. But yeah, it's hard part's over. Or not really, I guess. Now I gotta cut it down the rest of the way and try not to hurt myself, but I didn't totally wreck my Jeep. And so I torture tested the chain choker a little too hard. I've got a decent tool set at where I work, so I'm hoping I can use that to repair it. But if not, I'll just buy another. It's like $90. But yeah, definitely figured out where the chain pulling spot is on the Jeep. Not down here. This unbolts though, so fortunately I'll be able to fix all that up and never know what happened. So I'll just unbolt it and either use a press and straighten things out, or just leave it off. Definitely help my approach angle. But yeah, so now that that's complete, I'm gonna get cutting while I still have a little bit of sunlight left and catch up with you later. But I'm gonna call that a video. The winch works. Jeep took a little abuse there, but fortunately nothing it couldn't handle. The winch itself stayed on well. It did its job for what it's worth. Yeah, so gonna call this one complete for now. Thanks for watching and wish me luck.